that is quite. It's quite. Well, you're not on yet. So, anyways, but we're on now. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Art Sign. We are live just after 7, as we usually do. How you doing, Jonny Torres, your host? Very excited. That in the background would be everyone trying to share, like, comment on the show as we get started here. Thank you so much. Don't forget, you can catch previous episodes on YouTube. You can follow us on all the social media platforms. And for the audio version of the podcast, you want to go on to Google, Spotify, and what's the other one? Apple. Duh. So thank you so much for watching. Actually, our audio version of the podcast has been blown up. Like, our numbers have just doubled over the past 6 months, which is amazing. And so thank you to everybody listening to the Yard Sign and for supporting the show. Very excited, not only because there's plenty to talk about, and we took Columbus Day off. Thanks, Columbus. But there's so much going on, and we have a very special guest. So over here to my left, you have all of today's topics. We'll talk about Amy Coney Barrett's hearings and the ridiculous theater that was. The election polls, of course, we'll get an update. Anibal's crunching the numbers as we speak. We'll pick apart the whole Hunter Biden situation and whether or not it is a conspiracy theory, and we'll touch on Twitter's whole issue with it as well. And then, of course, the dueling town halls. Both Trump and Biden, instead of having their debate that they were supposed to have in Miami, decided to have dueling town halls. And so we'll talk about whether or not that's going to have any impact on November. Let me go ahead and unmute these guys over here in the center table and switch over to those guys. Let's see, what are we doing here? There we go. Oh, right. God, I always get Anibal right in the face, right there. Look at that.
Right in the face.
Right in the face.
There's some talented people, and I just have that talent.
Oh, my gosh. Well, guys, thank you so much for being on the show, as always, from left to right. Let's go ahead and let's get the good cameras here. We're going to have to adjust you, Joe, because I just saw you cutting off Anibal a little bit. But left to right, that's Joe Wicker in the left chair there, not to be confused with our special guest for today, Brittany Jean, joining us in the right chair. Let me swap that over there to the right. Boom, there we go. See, that's how that works. And then, of course, joining us as always, and partially blocked by Joe Wicker, is Anibal Cabrera. I think, Anibal, you're going to have to probably swing out a little bit. Let Joe stay where he's at. But, guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. Let's go ahead and start with today's first topic because, like I said, we got plenty to talk about. Amy Coney Barrett. Seeming like a lock right now to be joining the Supreme Court. What do you guys think? I mean, the nothing really came out of the hearings, nothing really substantial. I mean, I think the biggest controversy was the whole comment on preference. Sexual preference versus sexual orientation, which was stupid and made up, and so is it a lock? We got the votes.
They need 51 votes. They've got 51 votes. They've got 53 probably.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to happen.
Yeah, I think we'll have a few Democrats actually vote for her.
Oh, you think so?
I think so.
Did anybody say they would?
Feinstein was really appreciative of her comments. Didn't do anything negative with her commentary. So I feel that we're probably going to get more than 51 votes for this one. I do know that the senator from Maine, I believe, is said that she's not going to vote for
right,
ABC.
Yeah. So we'll get 52.
ACB. I'm telling you. Acronyms.
So let's go ahead and just to kind of put you on the spot for our special guest here, Brittany, you are a law student. And so give us that perspective. You've got this amazing woman who is not only an incredible mother, but at the same time, one of the most successful lawyers in her field right now, on her way to becoming a Supreme Court justice. What is that like, especially for you kind of going through that process at the beginning phase?
Yeah, so I will say that I was definitely very interested in the whole process of the nomination and watching the Senate hearings probably a little too much. I should have been studying while they were on. But I loved it. I love her as a law student that's just starting out. I think that she is a huge inspiration to young women that want to be involved in law and in politics in general. And she just is set in her her jurisprudence, and she really believes that the law should be interpreted the way it was written and the way that the lawmakers meant when they wrote it, which is one way of interpreting the law. And for conservative law students, that is how most of us look at it. So it's nice to have that inspiration going into law school. I know that a lot of my conservative friends at school, we loved sitting there and talking about her and talking about how she views the law versus how some of the other judges view the law. And it's going into law school, like I said, it's very interesting to really see that transition. When we're reading the Supreme Court cases in class, you can, after watching this and learning it, you can really tell what the judges stand for, how they're interpreting the law, what their jurisprudence is, and then to see it all play out on TV for a whole week was really interesting.
And give me a little bit of the perspective from your professors. I'm guessing they're obviously wanting you and encouraging everybody to watch closely what's happening, what the process is, and maybe even picking it apart. What has there been any kind of revelations in terms of your professors' political leanings, or have you been fortunate to kind of have better professors that kind of keep their own perspective out of it?
So I will say, much to my surprise, we really haven't talked about it in class. A few of my professors have mentioned it, mostly in civil procedure, because that's where we're learning about how the law works and how the system works as a whole. But I feel like the climate is it's so political and it's so dramatic, and everyone is so polarized that our professors are really trying not to bring up anything that's political in class. So I was very disappointed. I was very surprised, but we really haven't talked about it in class.
I mean, if that's the case, you can't talk about anything at this point. Just everything seems like it's become political, which is crazy. It didn't used to be this way.
It is crazy. You can see in classes, we were talking about a case, and there was a discrimination based off of race and religion, way back. Race and religion, way back after 9/11. And when the professor started asking some questions about if the people in the class thought that they were being discriminated against, or if there was a valid reason as to why this gentleman wasn't hired, nobody raised their hand, because nobody wanted to be in the hot spot and nobody wanted to give their political opinions on the case and then have the rest of the class, label them as, oh, she's a conservative, or oh, he's a conservative, or oh, he or she is racist. And it's a very hard climate to adjust to, and it's a very sticky situation to navigate through, because you're with these classmates for 3 years, right? So,
and you would like for there to be some kind of like an environment to be able to discuss these topics and be able to have the iron sharpening iron, because that's the only way you really learn is having discussions. So I'm kind of okay with them realizing that they don't want to go too far and alienate other people, but then I also don't like the idea that you don't have the environment to be able to have that conversation. Like, do you think that will benefit you or your classmates in the future?
I don't. I think that if we can bring up the topics and we can discuss each side of it and be respectful and understanding of everyone else's viewpoints, that it would be beneficial and helpful to us as future attorneys and as people that are, entering the young adulthood and really engaging in politics and everything going on right now, that it would be beneficial to everybody to be able to discuss both sides, to have an understanding of both sides, and to be civil and just have that conversation. That's what's wrong with, the entire country right now. Nobody can engage in that conversation without one person getting mad or one person calling someone a racist or being violent. We really need to just go back to the core and have good, deep, understanding conversations with each other.
Well, there for a while, I thought that it seemed like the Dems were going to really go after her religion, after ACB's religion, and I'm they have conversations about strategy, behind the scenes. As much as people might want to think that it's just straight up and down, is this person qualified? The fact is that politics is at the heart of everything that's going on there in the Senate. And it looked to me like they basically decided, you know what, there's been a lot of things that haven't exactly went well for the Democrats recently, like with the riots and whatnot. And I think that people were kind of waiting to see, like, are you really going to tear up this woman because of the fact that she's Catholic and has 7 kids? Like, really?
Well, remember
And
how
they
far
backed
they went.
off, and they didn't do that. You know, they really didn't go after her at all in that regard.
There's no winning going after the morality of an individual that is such a upstanding individual in their community. It doesn't work. It won't work positively. We're in a hyper election cycle, and attacking a woman who's adopted children, who is raising them correctly, who's doing all that she can to make sure they have everything that they're ever wanting, and being able to work full time at the same time.
Well, there were some people on the internet that were saying some crazy stuff. Remember that? Somebody said that she was
A colonialist.
because she adopted children from another country, from Haiti, I think it is, that she was basically colonized. I mean, it's just crazy.
It was crazy. And then if they attack her religion, Joe Biden is Catholic, so going after her for her religion, and then your presidential candidate is also, you know, as he claims, a devout Catholic. So there would be definitely.
Oh my, that's
a little.
But
Got something caught in my throat there for a second.
That's really the
Can we
brilliance,
go to commercial
right?
break?
get a little parched.
That is that's really though the brilliance, right, of the whole pick in itself is that I mean, she just hit all of the boxes. I mean, short of maybe being a minority, which Kamala Harris, of course, had to make an issue out of, she maybe was the best pick that they could have landed in given the current environment, right?
Yeah, I mean, she was remember she was already at the top of the list when Trump had to make his first pick.
Yeah, we have known about her.
She was already at the top of the list.
For a few cycles already.
Yeah, and it almost seemed like he basically told her, "Hey, I got you next go around," or something like, "Hey, if anything happens to, you know, RBG, you know, you'll be my pick," and you know, something did happen.
And this is what, and some people don't understand this, but like, this is one of the main reasons why I voted for Trump, is because he had came out with a list of judges that, if given the opportunity, these would be the people that he would appoint.
Well, the Federalist Society put out the list.
And I wasn't expecting Trump to create
that. He didn't create that list.
But I was expecting him to get the people that knew what they were doing to be able to move that forward. And he's done exactly what I wanted. I think it's 180 judges that have gone through the Senate, and now this will be the 3rd pick for the Supreme Court, which is ridiculous. And so that has been something that he promised, and he has delivered it. And I think it's a great role model for future lawyers, future judges. She's going to be a great example of what a conservative, and I'm going to use the word loosely when it comes to conservative judge, because you don't know at the end of the day how they really will behave.
They usually don't get more conservative on the court. That's the thing. You know, the thing that I don't think people give Trump credit for, though, is as a businessman, and I don't even know that he talks about it as much, is that when you are in business and you're trying to get the right people on the team, ideology might play a role, but the truth is you want the best people that you can possibly get.
Correct.
Period. No matter what your business is, you want the best people. And there's a lot of that still in Trump, even though it's probably difficult to do that in politics per se, because there's a lot of considerations. But he wants the best people. You know, and I don't think there's many people before or after the confirmation that are really questioning it in a realistic way, right?
Now, I will say this, though. Hector Gonzalez has made a point on Facebook saying that Senator Ted Cruz and other senators are now proposing a constitutional amendment that would ban the expansion of the Supreme Court.
Sure, the states are on board, but the states would probably be on board, right? 3/4 of the legislatures would probably ratify it, but how are you going to get it out of Congress, right?
It'll never get.
It would have to originate with the states. Yeah.
And I don't even want to open that Pandora's box of opening a.
No. I'm not talking about that. No, but I mean, it can originate, I think. Well, you're the lawyer.
I know.
I think there's like 4 different ways, right? Hey,
I've only been in school for 9 weeks.
One of the lawyers comment in. I don't have a copy of the Constitution in front of me. I think there's 3 or 4 different ways, though. But the point is that the main way that it happens is when it goes through Congress, and you're not first, and then gets ratified, and you're not going to get it through the House right now. So that's not even an option.
And that's a disappointment when the opposition party because they're not getting their way, has to change the rules so they can try to figure out a way to.
I mean, it's pretty rare that you need a constitutional amendment, and that's by design, thankfully,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Thankfully, the federal constitution doesn't get changed like Florida's does. But you would actually think that going ahead and just codifying that, hey, we're at 9, and that's the number. Like, I mean, I think that's something that could probably pass.
Probably. I mean,
If there was political will was there to do
what
it.
would be the benefit of adding more judges?
I don't think that there would be a benefit. I mean, I could see where the Democrats would think that there's a benefit because then they could balance the court by adding, more liberal judges. I don't know if writing an amendment saying that there has to be 9 is the best idea, just because it's not in the Constitution, right? The Constitution
Right.
doesn't state how many judges there should
Correct.
be, and it has changed throughout history. It hasn't in like the last 150 years, but it had changed before, and that power does lie with Congress. So I don't know if an amendment would be the best way, just because then, you're adding new laws. You're not really interpreting what the founders wanted per se when they wrote the Constitution. However, I think, sticking with the 9 judges is precedence now, and that is what they should look at to keep it that way. And adding more judges, from what we have talked about in class, because we have talked about this, the conversation then starts to change because you have 9 judges sitting around a table. When you add more, they have less time to talk about it. They have less time to discuss it.
Right.
And you have more opinions coming in. And I mean, if you've read these Supreme Court opinions, they are pages long, and you have judges agreeing with parts 1 and 3 and not with parts 5 and 6. And adding more judges would make that more confusing. You need a majority to pass the law to make it precedent. And so that would just, I think, disrupt the entire system.
And we have to remember what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So just because it might work because, let's say the Democrats controlled the Senate and then they pack the court. Okay, that works for you now. But what happens in the future when that's not
like
the
with
case?
the filibuster.
Yeah, that's
you
what
know,
I'm
Exactly.
saying.
Yeah,
They've
the filibuster.
already felt the sting once, and they're not going to remember that again.
So for those,
Right.
so I don't know who wants to explain it for those that are watching about what happened with the filibuster. It used to be 60 votes, basically.
Right.
It used to take 60 votes to get anything done in the Senate, and to get Obamacare through, Harry Reid went nuclear, as they called it, the nuclear option, and removed that and made the Senate rules, because the Senate gets to create their own rules, and made it where a simple majority was all it took to pass Obamacare. And Mitch McConnell at the time was the minority leader, stood up and said, "You will regret this if you do
Rue
this."
the day.
And sure enough, now here we are. 51 votes is all it's taken, and they've gotten 3 justices through now, or soon to be the 3rd justice.
And
through
this
for
was
that.
2013,
Right.
Yep.
when they took
Wasn't
out
that
the
long ago.
filibuster.
Yep.
So it's not like we have to look far to see how history has played it out.
Just a small reminder as to how brilliant Mitch McConnell is, in case anybody was wondering.
Cocaine Mitch.
Cocaine Mitch.
I
that,
hate
man.
that. I hate that nickname.
How do you
know,
hate
yeah.
I don't know.
Wait.
I just don't get it. I don't.
They brought a heavy tanker in that had coke in it. I'm just saying. I mean, it was like a deep water, like huge Panamax
Okay.
shipping boat that
Now that-
happened to get busted by ICE. But I mean,
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching the
Customs,
Yard
I
Sign,
mean.
everybody. Right to my left, today's topics, our special guest, Brittany Jean, one of the brand ambassadors for Turning Point USA, joining us today. And so excited to have her and for you all watching. Thank you so much. We just talked about ACB and her hearing. So let's go ahead and crunch some numbers real quick in terms of the election and talk about, the opinions on where this race stands could not be more diverse. Everybody, I think, has a drastically different take on how this election is shaping up. And again, do we trust the same polls that got it completely wrong 4 years ago? Or did they get their act together and kind of learn from it and try to make some adjustments so they could be right leading up to 2020? So we'll kind of kick things off. First, let's go ahead and crunch the numbers. Anibal, what you got?
So the polls are absolutely everywhere this cycle. We have a big contrast of where we're starting from. Some are saying that it is a dead heat in some states. Some are going as far as a 12-point lead, Biden over Trump. The problem that a lot of people are having with these polls, however, is because they're using somewhat of the same metrics that they used to calculate these poll numbers in 2016. And so that's where the discrepancy is happening right now. If you were to believe some of the polls, that would mean that there's more energy and fervor for Biden than Obama in 2008. Do we believe that?
No.
No. So
I
can't say that. And then another statistic that we looked at, Rasmussen is saying that Biden is going to outperform FDR when it came to a Democratic wave from 1944. So
which election? What are we talking about? Which one?
They're saying if
FDR's 1944 election?
Yes.
Okay.
Where he won during the World War II.
Right.
So I think it was a landslide of.
And that was probably his biggest one, right?
Correct.
Or I don't know.
But this is the thing. Okay, so a campaign that's done virtually nothing in comparison to previous presidential campaigns, mostly because of coronavirus, right? No rallies, barely any debates, barely any public appearances. The public appearances he has had, honestly, has there been more than a dozen people there?
No, but they would say that's by design. They would say that's,
and I get that, but
COVID
but even on my social media platforms, your most fervent, most hardcore Democrats, while they're certainly waving the flag, they're not necessarily excited by the idea of Biden. That's just the guy that they have to get behind. And that's, I think, the biggest difference. And so I am incredibly skeptical, much like I was 4 years ago, as to how this is going to turn out. I'd love to point to the rallies, and I'd love to point to all the flags and the boat parades and all this amazing stuff that's been happening and say, God, there is no way he's going to lose this election.
I don't know.
But there are people saying that there's going to be a Democratic landslide, and you got to balance it out, regardless, because the people saying that are people that have been in this business for a long time. And again, as we saw 4 years ago, not that they can't be wrong, it's that. I don't know. For me, I just have that doubt. I have that slight skepticism that maybe there is this kind of underground, kind of silent movement happening among Democrats and independents that really are just turning out in huge numbers, because all the polling places, right? And Brittany was out at one of them today. Of the lines have been ridiculous.
Well, normally when the voters are really showing up, somebody's about to get fired. Right, when voter turnout increases, people are upset, and you're about to get fired, and that hurts incumbency, whoever's the incumbent. So it concerns me a little bit to see the voter turnout, to see the long lines. Having said that,
well, no, we've always had long lines for the first day of early voting.
Right. Having said that's the first day of early voting. You've got a lot of people that want to vote in person, but don't want to vote on election day, because that's because then you're really crammed in there. And they don't want to do the mail-in thing. So it'll be interesting to see where we're at in about 5 days.
Okay, but how much
early voting is for 10 days? I think
how much of these lines that we're seeing specifically here in Florida, or maybe even nationally, because we're seeing it in Atlanta, we're seeing it in other states, is it because people are severely doubting the handling of the mail-in ballots this year?
They want to vote in person, but they don't want to vote on election day because then that's your last opportunity, and then there really are lines. At least that's the way it used to be. Now election day is not bad because there's so much other methods to vote.
I've never had an issue getting to my polling station and voting either before work or after work. It's never been a problem for me during election day.
Back to the polls, though, I was at a fundraiser for Michael Owen, by the way, House District 59. Vote Mike Owen. And I was having a conversation with somebody who was saying that they saw a real poll, okay, and then and then they talked about the percentages. And the reason why I bring that up is what they mean is an internal, we are polling legit to find out what we need to do type of poll. Okay, these are not polls that they then turn around and necessarily publish, because it's actually campaigns doing their own internal polling. And if you're lying to yourself, you're not doing yourself any good.
Right.
So the campaigns are really trying to zone in and find out, okay, based on who we believe is absolutely going to vote, how do we stand? And those are the polls that matter, or that are probably more accurate. Unfortunately, you're not going to see a lot of that.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can think of in regards to what Jonny was saying about the uncertainty of it is, I just remember back to 2016. Remember, it was every single poll, and it was crazy, and Hillary Clinton was 95% going to win. It was just a certainty. It was just going to happen.
She was double digits.
Yes.
Supposed to win.
And the last thing I'll say about the polling is that gets released publicly is part of that is campaign strategy.
Yep.
Hey, let's suppress the opponent's voters by telling them that it's just a landslide. There's no point in you even showing up because this thing is already over with. And that's,
yeah, but more than ever, does it not seem like everyone and their grandmother is telling you to get out to vote? I mean, I've never seen so many companies.
Well, Facebook tells me every 5 minutes.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, you see it 500 times a day when you log onto your cell phone. It's ridiculous.
Have you voted yet? You might have said so.
I have not voted yet.
Okay.
I am
You were at a polling
until
place.
Election day.
Okay, I'm just wondering, once you vote, because I think they're just blanket.
Will it go? I think,
I don't think it's zoned in. It's just blanket, right?
There is a way to get that.
I saw
off
that,
of your
and I
phone.
did it. Thank you, whoever,
So there is a way to do it.
You're welcome.
And if
Thank
anything,
you, 25-year-old person or
25, 18.
Yeah,
Probably that age.
yeah.
But I will say
Shout out to my friend Ben in DC, who actually, I mean, that's who I got it from.
Yeah,
but I'm sure he got it from somebody else.
Yeah.
So I will say this: just because there are more people telling you to vote doesn't necessarily mean that there will be more people voting. There's a weird projection out there, and it's a statistic situation to where the more people remind you of something, the more you are more likely that you're going to forget to do it because you've been reminding yourself that to do it, and unless you have a legitimate reason to go and do it, doesn't necessarily mean you will. So it's a fascinating idea that just because it's like
yes, but more than ever,
it's like saying if we make voting a mandate or you make it voting online, will more people do it? Not necessarily.
I think
true.
I think social media and Google, I think they absolutely are driving people to
Trying
the polls.
to get out the votes, yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, for God's sakes, you got the cast of The West Wing to reunite,
Yeah.
just to drive people out to the polls.
Yeah.
And again, like every major corporation right now is putting out money trying to drive people to vote, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. I mean, it's a great thing, obviously, right? But you have to wonder, what's the motivation, right? Like, why now has it been? Because this has been tried for years, and then of course you always heard about the youth vote, which never turns out, they like barely get the double digits,
Right?
And so it's
Rock
just
the
so
vote.
fascinating to me that
Beyonce the day before the election.
not only is nobody talking about the youth vote in this cycle.
That's true. They're not.
They're not.
But there's also a ridiculous amount of money and effort put into driving people to the polls.
So I'm going to say that, and I know that you were at a polling station, so if you want to give your example that you were telling us earlier about what happened.
Yeah, so I was only at one polling station around lunchtime for a couple of hours today, and there were some long lines. But from what I saw, the enthusiasm for Donald Trump and the Republicans were very strong.
Where was
where
this?
I was?
Are
It
you
was
willing to
the,
say?
Plant Library.
Oh, okay. So
I
in
can't
Tampa?
forget the first name.
The Jam Platt.
Jam
Platt
Library. Okay.
Around lunchtime, and it's Tampa, which was very surprising. So, you have I was holding a sign for Jackie Toledo, State House, District 60. And you have the Democratic volunteers and the Republican Party volunteers handing out their voting guides.
Right.
And we had so many people come up to us, take our voting guides. Yeah, we're going to vote for you guys. Trump hats, Trump masks. The Democratic Party volunteers did leave a little early.
Really?
They packed up their car and they left. So I do think that the enthusiasm is there.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, we're all going to be a little bit skeptical of the polls, but I think, like you said, the campaign strategy of trying to push the one side down and say, it doesn't matter, you're so far behind. I don't think that's going to work for Trump supporters. I think that, they are going to get to the polls and they're going to vote no matter what. And we'll just have to see what happens.
I've seen some, what I would call our traditional Republican voters, okay? Meaning they're not super partisan. They're not, locked in. I've seen traditional Republican voters that I think have succumbed to the onslaught of constant outrage. And because Biden doesn't have the excitement, there's no way to really get people more excited about Biden. So from my perspective, their
What
whole
excitement.
campaign. I know there is none. So you can't grow his base.
Yeah.
Okay. It is what it is. So what I have seen them doing is having outrage story after outrage story every single week about Donald Trump in an effort to shave away his voters, because if they can cause him to lose enough voters, then Biden can win by default. And the one example I will give of that is that whole story that Donald Trump went to France for the D-Day thing, and instead of going on the first day, and he said they were losers or some crazy story, right? Which is 2 years old, apparently. I mean, this is just now dropping. This supposedly happened 2 years ago. But guess what also happened? Because the story, I think, dropped on Friday. Guess what happened on Monday, I think it was? Military absentee ballots were getting mailed out. So it was timed for when military personnel, who traditionally vote more Republican, I think about 55 to 60%, would receive their ballots. So it's targeted. It's like, let's shave. Who can we get that's in that little group that's going to be with Trump? Who can we peel away?
Well, we know that they're trying their best to shave off 65 or older voters, and then suburban moms. Those are the big ones that the Democrats are really focusing on to reduce their numbers. Whereas the Republicans are focusing on, we had a huge Hispanic rally over the weekend where you had the caravans all throughout Florida, sign wavings, every other corner. It was insane driving around the Bay Area over the weekend. And then, but as someone that's kind of in the bubble, and we talk politics all the time, you're like, I don't see anyone. Or there was some that saw a Biden caravan this morning.
It had 15 cars in it.
They told me 7.
Seven. As you get older, one of the benefits of getting older is being able to have those memories of, wait a minute, has it always been this way? And one of the things that I remember now of past elections is around election time, they always throw out the whole so-and-so is going to take away your Social Security and Medicare. They try that on seniors every 4 years.
Yep.
It's the same line. And the fact is, neither Donald Trump nor Joe Biden are probably going to even touch Social Security and Medicare, because it's politically impossible.
And that's why, the Republicans are focusing on the black vote, the new groups that are coming out. We were at a Trump Pride event on Saturday with Tiffany Trump. That was an amazing event. We had 60 plus young Republicans walking for Ana Paulina Luna in St. Pete. We had, I think, Joe Biden.
By the way, that's not a mini bar bottle of liquor, by the way.
Although it does say, although I noticed the alcohol content, they made it a point to say grain alcohol.
Oh boy!
But yes.
Plus
aloe vera.
Probably made in one of our local breweries.
Probably. So again, there's a lot of momentum coming out. We knocked on, I think, maybe plus 5,000 doors over the weekend. So we are really moving, and we see nothing of the Democrats.
Zero campaign.
So either they're all secretly gonna vote,
it's crazy. It's a ghost campaign.
Yeah,
it's like a ghost campaign.
And
what are
I
you
do
seeing?
think my little sister will be voting in her first election
Oh,
this
wow.
year, and
Nice.
she is
Cool.
Registered as an independent, and she said that she has been inundated with Donald Trump mailers, but she has not received one for Joe Biden yet. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum, my grandpa just turned 85 years old. Him and my grandmother and my dad registered Democrats since they immigrated to the United States from Tanzania. And they, in 2016, said that they would never vote for Donald Trump. My grandparents, my dad has loved Donald Trump since he came down the escalator and said he was running.
He was one of those people.
He was one of those people that said Donald Trump's going to win.
I've been with you since the escalator, since you came down the escalator.
We have autographed hats from his very first rally in Florida and everything. But my grandparents, 85 years old, registered Democrats, lifelong Democrats, immigrants, have mailed in their ballots for Donald Trump last week. So, I mean, you're hearing stories on both sides of the spectrum.
What are they saying? What's their reasoning? Because I know that's anecdotal. It's your personal experience. Well, what are they saying? Why?
My grandparents think they do not want the United States to turn into the country that they left behind.
Oh, okay.
So they don't want it to turn into socialism. They agree with supporting the police officers. They are Muslim, and so they believe in religious freedom, not just for them, but for everybody. The First Amendment. They are huge supporters of all of those. Yeah. And they said that they don't like the way that the country looks to be going if Joe Biden became president, and they can't stand for that.
And that's the thing. It's not Joe Biden that I'm looking at. It's everyone behind him
that
is pushing that agenda.
Sure.
So we all know that Joe Biden is just a sheep.
Yeah, he
and
has
not even a wolf. He's just literally just a sheep blocking the wolves behind. So you can't trust what he says. You can't trust what he does. And at the end of the day, I don't agree with any of the majority of the policies that the Democrats are spewing. And it gets worse and worse every single day.
Well, that's because they're setting Joe Biden up to be a moderate. And so I know I have a lot of friends that I went to college with and have met here in Tampa that are claiming, Joe Biden is a moderate. He's for the independent thinker. And I'm sitting there looking at them going, look at everybody else. Look at Kamala Harris. Look at, who he's going to bring onto his cabinet and everyone that's supporting him in the House and the Senate. I'm like, he is not a moderate. He can look like a moderate, but his policies are going to be pushed by the far left, I think. And,
at this point, he's willing to do anything it takes to get elected. To get into office.
His afternoon nap.
I mean, how many times does he run for this office?
This will be his three, right? This will be his third. Yes, this will be his third
for president.
I will say this: going with the new voters, my mom became a citizen over the summer. And this will be her first election, and she is voting for Trump as well.
That's exciting.
So we're really excited in that one.
That's exciting.
And so again, this is the bubble conversation. I do not know any Republican that voted for Trump in 2016 that is not going to vote for him now.
See, I think there's some,
I know some. No. So here's the funny thing.
You have the number of Trumpers.
Wait,
so have those out.
Yeah. So here's the funny thing. The ones that I do know that are not going to vote for Trump, who are Republican, are all people who used to work in the system. These are all consultants. These are political operatives.
Right, exactly.
People who got pushed out by the Donald Trump campaign because he was an outsider and wasn't able to in some cases and didn't hire intentionally in other cases. Some of the people that have been in this process for decades.
Yes. Yeah, the one thing that really kind of has frustrated me over these 4 years is for my whole life, you've heard people talk about what they wish they could have in a politician. And they would say things like, I want somebody who's not a politician. I want somebody who is not beholden to lobbyists.
Right.
I want somebody to just tell it like it is. Quit being so polished and just lying to us. Just tell it like it is. We need a businessman, and I'm like, okay, you got all of these things.
Right. Yeah.
And now you realize that you're not so excited about it. Because to Jonny's point, there's a lot of people that make money off the system. Their only principle, they might have some personal principles and beliefs. They might, lean a little more conservative or Democrat, whatever it is. But the fact is that their job is making money off politics. And I read an article that was talking about how a lot of the voters, didn't really send Trump to Washington to fix Washington, D.C. They sent him there to burn the place down. Like, he's not going to make it, but he's not there to hook you up and to help you out. If you live in Washington, D.C., you might end up out of a job.
Yeah, and we've played the game almost all of us have played this game, and you're going to see this now as you get more and more with the consultants and everything else. If you don't pick the right consultant, they will find someone to run against you. It's like the dog eat dog. Yeah. They do not care about party.
It's their business.
And it's because it's their business.
It's their business.
And I don't fault them for that, but you need to understand that going in as a candidate that you got to pick the right one, so then you don't have someone being pushed up on purpose just to screw with your campaign.
I'm not going to call out any names, but to Jonny's point, there are people.
We could easily call out
there
names.
Are people.
Oh, there's a list.
There are people that had to retire from lobbying and from all the influence stuff because there was no business for them.
Yeah.
Because Donald Trump got elected.
So then again,
all those people are going to hate the guy.
But then, are they the ones that voted for him in 2016? I don't think so.
No,
No.
of course not. No, of course not.
So then that's the
but
thing.
they
Because
come
they
out as
knew.
Republican. Yeah,
Exactly.
but because they knew it was going to be bad for it. But they come out, oh, I'm a Republican and I voted for Bush and blah, blah. No, your business is politics. And whether a Republican gets elected or a Democrat gets elected, you still make money.
Yeah.
But when Donald Trump gets elected, a lot of people lost their income.
I didn't have any Democrat friends come up to me in 16 and say I'm voting for Trump. This cycle around, a lot of my Democratic friends are saying that secretly. We were at the LGBTQ event on Saturday, and there were a lot of registered independents and Democrats that are done voting Democrat and they're voting Republican. And you hear all these stories and you're listening to all these these anecdotes, and you're like, I see the enthusiasm, I see the wave that's coming on our side, but you don't see it in the polls. I don't see it in the polls. But then you see almost 50% of the country approves of his job, of what he's doing right now. In the economy, it's above 50%. And so these conflicting polls, and Jonny, you know this more than anyone else, it's the verbiage of the poll decides if it's going to be a plus or minus.
Yeah, and much like the amendments, which we are going to get into today, we're going to do kind of a quick run through the amendments that are going to be on your ballot, at least here in Hillsborough County. It's all on how you word it, and it's intentionally worded, to in some cases get a certain answer out of you, and in other cases it's meant to obviously make you think about your answer, but also second guess your answer.
So I have a few more, one or two more whole numbers. Quinnipiac in 2018. Quinnipiac said that Nelson and Andrew Gillum were going to win by 7 points. That was the week before the election. 7 points. Yeah, and so we all know that how that ended. In Pennsylvania,
in any statewide race in Florida is just never going to be that wide. It's never going to be. It's always going to be tight.
The Monmouth poll in Pennsylvania is saying that Biden is going to outperform Obama in 08.
See, that's just got to be. That's got to be. That's insane.
And so now,
how in the world?
And so
that's not even
I really
possible.
went into that number because I was like, that's insane.
That's wild.
So I looked through it. The Democrats in Pennsylvania have lost almost 50,000 registered Democrats since 2016. Republicans have gained 157,000 registered Republican votes, but yet he's still projected to lose by 10 points. I have no.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Well, Pennsylvania's scary to me, though. I posted an article. It was talking about, I'm not going to go all into depth, but it basically said Trump could win Pennsylvania and still lose the Pennsylvania because because you can't trust what's going on in Philadelphia and what's the other major city there?
You're not going to, what was it? I think it was like 8 million people did not vote.
But see, this is the thing about Trump, and specifically regarding like New York City, Philadelphia, some of these kind of hard-nosed, like blunt edge cities, right? Like they get guys like him. They understand guys like him. They don't take him for face value. And when they do, they know when to do it.
But Pittsburgh
and most people outside of the Northeast don't understand guys like that and how they talk.
Yeah, that's true. But Pittsburgh, and that was the other city, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia are full. The supervisor of elections and the whole political machine there, it's all controlled by the Dems. And they already have, I believe that's one of the states where they already have more ballots that have been mailed out than actual, and I need to fact check myself here, than actual legal age registered voters. It's like, come on, guys. Their voter rolls are not clean. They're one of those states that have loose laws when it comes to turning in the ballots. And you're going to have cars pulling up with ballots in the trunk at 7:05 p.m. and it's gonna get through. And that's
I'm
the
gonna
concern.
say that's where it's gonna get ugly.
That's
the day
the
of
concern.
the election
it's
gonna get ugly that way.
That's the concern.
People are gonna say, well, my ballots are gonna be coming in days afterwards. And do you count those ballots? And I think that's the Supreme Court that's going to have to make a decision.
And what the American people aren't ready for, I don't think, because if you know anything about your own, if you know election law, you probably only know the election law in your state, right? You know how your state does things. All 50 states can have their own different, variations of the election law in the process. But the thing is that you've got multiple states that have passed laws, and it's been challenged in court. Some of them have won, some of them haven't. That they've extended the time for the ballots to be counted. Some of them, I think one state's like 6 days. Like, are you kidding me? So that one state's going to be hanging on for a week? It's not.
It's
right.
going to be embarrassing, and people
It's
are going to
not
lose their
right.
jobs if it gets that bad.
Well, all right. So two things. I just wanted to piggyback on Brittany's comment about her grandparents, because we have one of our own, good friend of ours, Jeffrey Padovani, actually, immigrant from Puerto Rico, voted for president for the first time and voted
There we go.
for President Donald J. Trump. Also, Hector in the comment section says there's no way Biden has more enthusiasm than Obama. You're absolutely right. I mean, Obama was an anomaly in much the same way that Trump is an anomaly. The excitement from the party and the base of the party, like it was in 08 for Obama, I think there's more enthusiasm now for Trump than there was in 2016.
You think so?
Whether that turns into anything, I mean, at least visibly,
I did
like at least perceptively. I mean, there weren't parades and boat parades and caravans, and I mean, certainly not in the city of Miami did you have caravans for Donald Trump up and down 8th Street. I mean, you know, to see that level of enthusiasm.
I remember Jeffrey.
The Hasidic I'm sorry for cutting you off, but
ahead.
the Hasidic Jewish population in Brooklyn
Yeah.
having mass riots in the streets with
Yeah.
Trump signs and everything else because they're not allowed to worship because what's happening. I have never seen that.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a
Yeah.
repudiation of Cuomo.
Yeah,
I mean, that's really what they're getting at.
Speaking of Jeffrey, a couple of years ago when I was running for the state house, Jeffrey was, we're out knocking doors, and he's like, "Bro, you guys need to do caravans." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Yeah,
Yes.
you play, play music, you get loudspeakers, you put flags and signs and da. That's how they campaign in Puerto Rico." I'm like, that doesn't, these people are just waking up. Like it's Sunday morning or whatever, Saturday morning. They're not going to be too receptive. That's not how we campaign here.
Funny
but to
enough,
your point, 2 years later, we've got caravans going all over the place now.
All over the place.
Right. And these boat parades, which is kind of cool.
Yes,
I mean, that's kind of the new thing.
I mean, did you guys see the welcome that the president got in California the other day, though?
I didn't see it.
I think we had a
Where?
picture of
in
it.
Newport Beach.
Yeah.
And then there was a Trump caravan down the 405. So I think the enthusiasm is there. I just don't know how that translates.
Well,
to the
not
polls.
only
Hopefully
that,
it does.
I think it's also that Republicans, conservatives are sick and tired of being quiet. They're sick and tired of just sitting back and letting the media drive the narrative, the media drive perception. And they're saying, look, we're going to come out and be proud about what we believe in, which, again, is something that Republicans have not done in our generation, maybe since Reagan.
And it's not like the Democrats can't do what the Republicans are doing. They can do caravans. Like it's very safe. No one's going to get sick. You're in your own car. You buy the flag and everything else. Or you do the boat parade. Or you do what they did in Sun City and in the villages where they have the golf carts and they do that huge thing. And you see that everywhere now, and you don't see any of that in the Democrat side. And
the Biden golf cart parade that they had, because it made news. It made news.
It did make the news.
Because everybody
Trump's
was like,
gonna lose the villages.
Oh my gosh, the villages. Here's the Biden parade. I'm like, okay, but you know what that is though? That's copycat.
Yeah.
Which is just showing you that what the Republicans and what Trump are doing is working.
Yeah, because again, and so the only thing I could even see remotely would be the when we were having more of like the daily riots that were happening in Portland, and those individuals, I could kind of see, everyone in there is going to vote Democrat. Like that's going to happen. And now you see the boat rallies, and people are saying the boat rallies are more of a Republicans are more affluent, so they have the ability to get votes and everything else. I understand that point, but everyone has a car, or at least the majority of people have cars.
Or you can just stand on the corner and flag wave.
Exactly.
You don't see that for Joe Biden like you see for Donald Trump. No. And all of these events, the caravans and the boat parades and the flag waving, they're not organized by the campaign. They are organized by citizens who want to get together, who want to show their support. So I really think that it's there. And you can't have enthusiasm for Joe Biden when people make his slogan "Settle for Biden." Come on.
Yeah.
Or the one that I saw was not president, but like resident Biden.
Well, it was
Donald Trump posted that on Instagram.
Biden, yeah. It was AOC, right? That went on whatever Instagram or Facebook Live or whatever, and basically told her people like, "Listen, I know you don't like the guy, but suck it up and just vote." Like
she doesn't even like the guy.
No, she doesn't.
And that's why I'm afraid, because she's one of those people that are standing behind him. And
well, they always do that.
But it will be her policies, not Joe Biden doesn't have any policies. If he had a legitimate thought, he would have already submitted it to the Senate for the last 44 years of him being in politics. But again, it's who is actually coming out. I'm looking at just a pie right now a pie graph, not an actual pie, that says that almost 30% of the country didn't vote. Of eligible voters did not vote last election. Now, do you think Biden is going to energize 30% of the electorate that didn't vote to come out to vote for him? I don't see
Gloria
it.
says, talking about the Biden in villages, the golf
Well,
carts.
the
It
snowbirds
says,
are
well,
back.
that's because the snowbirds are
Right.
back. Well, that's a good point. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
that's because they're coming down from up north. They're settling in and they're here, but they're either, well, I guess they're probably voting in Florida, I guess. I don't know.
Well, let me go ahead and reset the show. Thank you, everybody, for watching The Yard Sign, the most important and relevant podcast in politics. Again, thank you to our special guest, Brittany Jean, joining us today from Turning Point USA, and just a local activist really kind of coming out into her own, and wanted to invite her on just to give her perspective, because she's been really active this election cycle. Joe Wicker joining us, Anibal Cabrera as always. We've been talking about ACB, the election polls, and we're going to kind of shift here just a little bit to one of these issues that you got to wonder, how is it reaching people? Is it going to make any kind of an impact? Do people even really care? Because honestly, the people that don't like the president don't dislike him because of policy. They dislike him because of his personality and the things that he says and the things that he posts on Twitter. And so when you're talking about Hunter Biden and his relationship with not only Eastern European countries, but even Asian countries, and the access that he's allegedly been giving to or had given to the vice president, back when Biden was in office, again, now there's supposedly a second laptop that allegedly was found by the Ukrainian government. I mean, the story's getting weirder.
That I haven't heard of.
Well, the story's only getting weirder because the first one was that Hunter Biden apparently left his computer to be repaired, and then this guy found it, and then he somehow went through it.
He never came to pick it up.
He never came back to pick it up. The guy sees the files on there and gets concerned, and he turns it over to the FBI. And then the FBI does nothing.
And so he gives it to.
And so he's like,
Giuliani's.
Gave it to a senator, I think Mike Lee's office. Gave it to a senator. And then
why not the authorities? So that's the weird part.
No, he did. He gave it to the FBI months ago.
And he kept a copy of the hard drive.
Gave it to the FBI months ago, and they did nothing, apparently.
Of course.
And so he gave it to Senator Mike Lee, I think, from Utah. And then I think nothing really happened there. And so he gave it to Rudy Giuliani, knowing that at this point he's going to tell Trump something.
By the way, I picked the most flattering Hunter Biden picture I could find.
No, don't. I will say this. I think it is very disturbing to read the emails and the text messages of how they're talking about where money is going, and then there's X amount going to Hunter Biden, and then X going to Big Papi, or like there's another, and it's weird because you're like, okay, so then who is that additional person that it's going to? Because we all know that money is being funneled some way into the Biden household. Because you're in Washington for that long, and now you're a multimillionaire with multiple houses and everything else on a salary of less than $100,000.
As a father of, I have a young son, 6 years old. I mean, you do the best you can as a parent. You're not, you're not responsible for everything. I mean, people become adults and they make their own choices. So my heart kind of goes out to Joe Biden a little bit in regards to his son having a massive drug problem and just all the personal issues he has. That sucks, right? But at the same time, he's kind of enabled it in the sense that he's sending his son. And look, a father getting their son a job when they're 18, I mean, that's one thing.
Normal.
You call up your friends and you say, hey, give my boy a job, right? Yeah. And you get him his first job and he gets going in the world or whatever. But we're talking about 45-year-old grown men here who are basically being sent to China because it's illegal. It would be illegal if the vice president did it.
Correct.
But the vice president can send his son, and the next thing you know, he's getting ownership of companies and being told, okay, I'm holding 10% for the big guy. I'm sorry, what? So you have ownership. Somebody gave you a company, or you somehow have investors, and you're holding 10% for your dad for when he gets out? But some of that stuff's not even illegal. That's the problem.
It's not illegal.
Some of it's not illegal.
Looks horrible,
but it's terrible.
It's
obviously, you're compromised. And so Trump has spent almost 4 years now being told that he's done wrong with Ukraine, that he's compromised this, that, and the other, and constant stuff about Russia. Come to find out, all of that was just projection. All of that was just the Democrats knowing that Biden was dirty and trying to accuse Trump of literally everything that Biden and his son have been doing this whole time.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, and obviously, it's so far, there's a lot of people dismissing it as conspiracy and that this is somehow manipulated and this is, trying to discredit the whole thing, right?
Actually, I push back.
But the details on it are way too specific and accurate as to the players involved and the way that they're talking about things and access and, the amount of hours and resources it would have taken to even manipulate, to kind of conjure up something like this, I think is.
But is it going to make a difference? Is it going to matter?
I don't think so.
I don't
it's
think
not going to
so.
matter.
I think it depresses the vote.
I think it hurts Biden. I think it hurts Biden from the sense it's saying, well, hey, maybe this guy's
is just
as corrupt as we think Donald Trump is, and give them
further reduces
a loss of
excitement.
faith in the whole process.
And that's
already
the
not
thing.
there, right?
The excitement is there for the Republican side. The excitement is not there. If anything, it's the hatred for Trump that is driving the Democrats to do it.
Yeah.
So if you have that percentage of Democrats that are just going to vote D because they always vote D. But if you have the ability to depress that vote a little bit, it helps in the larger scale of things.
I mean, if all the racist stuff that Biden said, when he was a senator didn't hurt him, I mean, certainly this isn't going to do much. But I think it will hurt him a little bit. Sorry, Brittany, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I do think that the whole censorship talk coming out of this entire story will motivate those Republicans that were kind of on the fence of Donald Trump or not. I think that this might motivate them to go ahead and vote for him because everybody wants to fight big tech. Nobody wants to be censored. And this is this is something that he said he would take on, and he is going full steam ahead to fight big tech. And even if you don't agree with him on a lot of other things, this could push more Republicans to the poll that way. I don't think that the story about Hunter Biden will stop Democrats from voting.
Brittany, do you feel like a lot of people are checking out, on younger folks that is, are checking out and just doing the third party libertarian thing? I mean, are they?
I do know some friends that said they're going to write in somebody or they're just not going to vote for president. They want to go out and they want to vote for the senators and the congressmen, but they do not want to vote for president. And they're either not voting for it or they're writing somebody in, or, something like this happens. And at the very last minute, they're deciding when they're standing there, okay, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Oh, look, and you mentioned the Libertarian Party. I mean, Joe Jorgensen was actually in town late last week. Yeah. Did anybody hear about it? No.
Well, the media blacks it out, though. But the media blacks it out.
I mean, and shout out to my friend Laura Hartman, who was actually there. She got to speak in front of the group that showed up.
And that's the only reason why I even knew that they was there, because of her social media.
Yeah, you would think that you would hear it.
Well, and then she tells me, that one of our local media outlets here, Bay News 9, showed up, which is owned by Spectrum, showed up. Got a bunch of footage, talked to people. They were all excited about it. Never posted the story.
Of course not. But I will, going back to the censorship, I don't know why people haven't learned this rule already. You don't tell the internet not to do something.
Yeah.
The moment you tell the internet not to do something, it makes it a bigger issue.
Yeah.
So again, and like with Nixon, it's not the act that got him in trouble. It's the cover-up that got him in trouble. So
didn't Twitter go back today and say that they're going to let it? Yeah. So didn't
it doesn't
Which
matter.
actually, funny enough,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
But they're just going to fact check it and say this is out of context. I mean,
it doesn't matter. The
Everything's
damage is already done.
And then you see it on an even bigger scale with the debate commission saying, moving away from that whole foreign policy focus.
They're not going to talk foreign policy.
No, they're not going to talk foreign policy now. That came out today.
Right. This was supposed to be the foreign policy debate.
Yeah, and
this
you
is
go,
supposed to be the foreign policy debate.
This is supposed to be a bipartisan commission that is now, going
We've achieved
to
world
help
peace,
something.
y'all. We don't need to talk about it anymore.
Well, Bob Dole,
Yes,
which
I was gonna say that.
I mean, look, okay. I think it's funny when I see guys like this come out, because if anybody's establishment, it would be somebody like Bob Dole, who served a long time in the Senate. Now, I like Bob Dole a lot, okay? And
Bob Dole's going to win this election. Bob Dole's going to change the country.
Always talking to himself about himself in the third person. And I mean, maybe I just have an affinity for him because the guy bled for his country. But he came out and said, hey, wait a minute. He's like, I know the Republicans that are on the commission are my friends, and I know that they're against Trump, which either he's just being honest, or is Bob Dole like a closet, like Trump, like MAGA hat wearing? Because I would love to see Bob Dole come out with like a MAGA hat.
The reality is that he sees what's happening.
Oh, yeah.
He understands the mechanics of what happens behind the scenes.
Yeah, he knows what's up.
And he realizes that they are literally changing the rules day by day to again try to put Trump at a disadvantage.
And he's probably
to
a
work against
stand-up
him.
enough guy. He's probably a stand-up enough guy to say, win or lose, the rules need to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
And Bob Dole was inside pop culture when he was in the Senate. I mean,
Was he?
Yes. So there, and I'm loving I get to bring this up. Bob Dole was referenced in the birdcage during the wedding at the end because the drag queens were looking at him and they're like, Bob Dole is gorgeous. And it's just it's a hilarious line. It's a throwaway line, but you're like, like at my age, at that age, I'm like, who's Bob Dole? And like you do the research and everything else. But he was
also a kind of one of the more classic SNL characters.
Yes.
I
think he probably was
one of the
that's
political
right.
characters.
That's right. He was parodied a lot.
But
yeah,
again,
Norm Macdonald was the one who typically played him.
Yes, that's right.
It's not Hunter Biden that's going to be the story. It's the fact that the Senate and the FCC have already said that they're going to change the rule, not change the rules, but going to reinterpret the rules to figure out if Facebook, if Twitter, if all these other platforms are doing what they're supposed to do. Are they publishers or are they just a free platform?
They're publishers now.
Yeah. Because this is
publishers
where the
now.
law, and this is probably where you're going to be able to come in. Because like, what are the ramifications when you can be sued by anyone now for what, libel?
Oh yeah, libel.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not going to be good. I can't give any advice yet. I don't know.
Well, why don't they just? I do not understand why companies go down this route. You have a platform. Keep like kiddie porn off of it. Anything that's like flat out illegal or whatever like that, keep that off.
Right.
And other than that, let people talk about whatever crazy
right.
stuff they're talking about. If someone's a wacko, everyone's going to know they're a wacko.
Well, and actually, this kind of leads me into our next topic. And so, which is when they brought up the QAnon stuff in the Trump town hall. His reaction or his answer should be like, who cares where people are getting their information? That's up to them. That is their decision to inform themselves however they see fit. And it is not the government's responsibility. It is not Facebook or Twitter's responsibility to determine whether or not that's a valuable or a valid source of information.
Well, and that's how the platforms got immunity, because they basically said just that, right? They said, hey, it's not our job and we can't be held liable for every single person and what they post. So you got to give us immunity to that. And they got it. And now they're responsible for everything that gets posted because they're basically filtering it through. They're publishing.
By the way, I love our comment section. Shout out to Christine Jennings, longtime friend watching the show, mentioning Bob Dole's 97 years old. That is amazing.
Yeah.
There you go. A little applause for Bob Dole.
Will he lie in state? I wonder.
I would guess so.
Think
Probably.
right? Senate president?
He will.
Senate president, yeah.
Senate president, presidential candidate.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're gonna make it happen. We have power here.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching The Yard Sign. Again, don't forget to subscribe to the audio version of our podcast on Google, Spotify, and Apple. Why do I keep forgetting Apple? Speaking of which, super excited about the iPhone 12, but that's a whole nother show. We are now, like as I said, getting into our final topic of the day, running a little long, but thank you again to Joe, Brittany, and Anibal for joining us on the show today. Dueling town halls. We had Trump and Biden both doing town halls instead of what we were hoping was going to be another debate, especially in Miami. That would have been really interesting. And hopefully, I think we'll get one more debate out of this cycle.
Jeffrey said talk about 50 Cent.
Said.
What did 50 Cent do?
50 Cent.
What did he do?
I don't know if it was an official endorsement, but he posted on his Instagram and his Twitter like just a few hours ago.
Oh, he did?
A picture of Joe Biden's tax plan, and he said, F no, vote for Trump. Like 62% in the state of New York is ridiculous.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, you've got 50 Cent.
And he had some money
Ice-T.
problems too, didn't he? I mean, didn't 50 Cent
Ice
have some
Cube.
money?
Ice Cube. I always say
Ice-T.
Ice Cube. I'm
Cube
Southern.
came out. Well, Cube was just like, hey, look, I've been working on some stuff. I'm trying to work on stuff here, and
His
the Dems don't even want to talk.
thing was legit. Like he was like, I'm going to talk to whoever's in power.
Yeah.
Like, I could care less as long as we get what we want. And I'm thinking to myself, that conversation needs to be had more in the Black community, because they've been voting these same people in every single cycle for their cities and their states, and what has happened?
Well,
nothing.
And Cube, look, I mean, we all know how he got started in NWA and whatnot, but Cube's a businessman now, and he has been for a long time.
Makes family films.
And when you're a businessman,
the money's good.
You're gonna be pragmatic, and whoever's in charge, you're gonna sit down. If you can make a positive change, what difference does it make? If you're trying to help out your community, what difference does it make who it is that is able to help you get legislation passed?
The Democrats don't want that, though. Democrats don't. They want it them to, and I'm going to say the Black community, to fear Republicans, fear that concept. Remember, Hillary Obama said that Romney was going to put people back in chains. So like, Biden said that.
Biden said that
so
about
Romney. It's a constant reminder that they want to just alienate us as Republicans.
Well, remember, Biden.
Well, but this is black.
You ain't black.
As a kind of nod to our guest Brittany here. I mean, what's been amazing is the conservative influencer space, that has just exploded with a lot of minorities coming out and basically trying to re-educate people and saying, hey, look, you're not paying attention. Like, I'm not telling you who to vote for. Just do the research. And I think that's what Ice Cube was trying to say. And that's why there's so many people out there that they're actually taking a moment to say, you know what? Yeah, let me look up some stuff on my own. And they're starting to come across the information and educate themselves in a way that they've never been able to before. And that's why, I mean, it's not a tidal wave. It's not a huge movement. But I think the needle is starting to move in the other direction, because people are realizing, wow, yeah, there's a reason why, we've never made any progress, or the progress that we've wanted to make. And that's because we keep voting in the same people cycle after cycle.
There's an argument that one of the main reasons why the Democrats want illegal immigration is because they need voters, because they can't convince the people that are already here. They can't grow their base anymore.
It didn't work with the Puerto
and they're
Rican
losing,
vote.
right? And they're actually losing their base. They're losing Hispanics. They're losing blacks. And if you start doing that, you're going to lose a lot of elections. And so they need illegal immigration because they need voters.
Yeah, but I will go back to the influencers, the coalition of young professionals that are on Twitter, that are on YouTube, that are on Instagram, and whatever additional stuff that I have no idea what's. My wife only lets me be on one platform at a time, and I yes, honey. So, but that's growing so quickly, and it's allowing for us to get into these communities that we would never have gone to.
No, it is. And I have a lot of friends that are in the space that are, people of color, or they're part of the LGBTQ community, and they get involved from seeing, the walk away movement on a Twitter video, or they watch a PragerU video and they're like, oh, wow, I really need to think about this. Let me do some research. And I have seen it growing. I didn't really start posting anything political until this summer, and my accounts have grown exponentially since then. So there are people that are our age that want to learn about it. They want to be involved in something as simple as a follow on Twitter or a follow on Instagram. They don't have to come out and say, I'm a conservative, I believe these principles, because nobody really looks at who you're following on social media. So that is like their little, it's our safe space where we can engage and we can be involved with people. And like you said, my DMs are flooded with people that you would have never guessed are conservatives, or they're pro-life, or, they believe something.
They don't feel like they can say it or whatever, but they'll
loud.
DM you, yeah.
Yeah, but that's why those channels are so important. Having people like DC Drano, having people like the Brokeback Patriots, having Log Cabin Republicans, those are the groups that are starting to build bigger and bigger. The Walk Away campaign, that is such an inspiration to see how, I know people that it was easier for them to come out as gay than it was for them to come out as a conservative.
Well, it's just the way that the left labels conservatives that are minorities or conservatives that are part of the LGBT community. They are mean and they are vicious and they threaten violence. And I get it. Okay. I identify, I guess, as white, even though my dad is a Muslim immigrant from Africa. I still put white on everything. And what I get just being, a white female conservative, the hate messages and the threats, like you should go kill yourself. Like, these people are mean. And if you are already struggling with, your sexuality or your space in this country, and then people say those things to you.
Yeah.
Even if you're a very strong person, like it takes a toll on you. And that is something that should not be acceptable.
I worry about young kids having to deal with that. I can't even imagine. When you're like 13, 14, you're all insecure. You don't even know what's going on. You got people telling you go kill yourself. Like.
Well, not to get too far off topic, but that's why childhood rates of suicide have just exploded.
Correct.
Because you can't get away from it. Look, I mean, I was somebody who I was, even though I was even though I am a minority, I was considered white in the school that I went to, and so I was the one getting jumped in the bathroom, getting beat up, getting stuff stolen, week after week. But it ended once I got on that school bus and went home. Now you can't escape it, because now it follows you on TikTok, and it follows you on Instagram, and it follows you on Facebook, and that never shuts off. I mean, we're starting to see more TV shows and movies talk about the effect that that's having.
Social
but
dilemma,
it's that,
you mean? Is that
it's
like, because I haven't seen
that yet. But
it's
it's the fact that it never stops.
Well, and Jonny, you've got your daughter's how old?
4.
Yeah. And so, I have a 6, a 4, and a 2, and I'm just sitting here thinking, like, what is the future? I know in 10 years it's going to be, because it moves so fast, but I'm just sitting here thinking, like, so what are the boundaries? Like, what is healthy?
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much that you don't even know.
And speaking about the younger age group, there is a big movement on TikTok of conservative TikTokers. They have, this page called the Republican Hype House, and there are a couple of them, and they are 15, 16 years old. Like, they are not voting age, but they are involved with conservative groups on campus.
That's cool.
They there's a girl here in Tampa that is a part of one of them, and she came and spoke at a meeting that I was at, and they are young kids in high school that are posting this conservative content, and they are blowing up.
Yeah, CJ Pearson kind of came up young
with the same.
Is TikTok surviving? Are they getting shut down?
It got sold to an American subsidiary. It's fine.
Okay, so it got sold off to an American company.
Whoa. We're not getting sued by TikTok. I will say this though: the Tampa Bay. It's so weird because the Tampa Bay area is starting to become like an incubator for
people
this
keep moving
kind of
here.
Social media. Oh yeah, and we're loving it. We were at Ferg's watching the Game 7 for the Rays, and the amount of people that were there that we knew of that were of the conservative social media movement, and that they were just sitting around and people talking to them, and people like asking for signs and like to be signed signatures was insane. And it's so interesting to see how that's moving forward, and how we need to make sure that we continue to foster that community and let them continue to grow, because now in social media you can be anywhere, and you just have to have a home base.
I was going to ask if the dueling town halls had any impact, but obviously we're not even talking about it. So
the way I will say
that's a no.
I will say this: when it came to the dueling interviews, it was basically which moderator was meaner and who had the better questions.
They were so lame.
Yeah, but you have to think about this. Why was there little to no fallout from the town hall that Trump was in? Because he actually made a lot of progress.
Yeah,
he came out and he
That
took on Savannah Guthrie, and he basically, especially when she hit him, and he was waiting for it, he knew it was going to come. When she hit him with the denouncing of racism joke, it was a joke of a question, but the question and the fact that he repeatedly, I mean, basically he just like I denounce it, like I mean, basically until she got quiet about it. It's like he shut the whole thing down. It's like, look, it's a ridiculous question. There's my answer. I've given it to you 6 times. Now let's move on. And I think that's what people said, man, if people go back and watch this, it's only going to help him.
Yeah.
I wished he would have answered the $400 million debt a little bit easier. That's where I know you can't have your cake and eat it too, but I wish Trump was a little bit more of a politician in the sense that he would prepare a little bit better, because people that own a home, most likely, depending on how old they are, have a mortgage. The guy's got properties that are in total worth like over $5 billion. To have $400 million loaned, in loans is not a big deal for that size of work. It's all relative.
Right.
All the guy has to do is say, listen, I'm a businessman. I got a bunch of properties. Some of them are mortgaged. Some of them are not. If you had a home that was worth $150K and you owed $100,000 on it, is that a big deal? It's not. Okay. So Trump has even less debt. his is the equivalent of having a home that's like worth $200,000 and only owing $25K on it. Like that is not even an issue.
Yeah, and
but
again,
they're trying to make it an issue, like somehow he's beholden to somebody.
And what's really come out of the debate, I will say this, is and again, it's the minutia, but it's the tax plans. That's really been what people have been hitting. And you see people posting it. Thank you, Parker, for sending that to us. Like, she just sent us DC Drano's top tax rates per state, California, New York,
on the 50 cent post.
That's the post that 50 Cent came out with.
Yeah. And that just tells you, look, they're thinking about the larger picture. What helps the black community is black business owners investing in the black community. You don't want gentrification in those neighborhoods. You want the black neighborhoods to do what needs to get done.
And the income tax, I wish people would understand that when you're taxing rich people, that you might think, oh, it's just rich people, whatever. But the income tax itself is the most damaging of all taxes because it does not hurt, not that taxes are supposed to hurt people, but it doesn't hurt the rich people. It hurts the people trying to get rich.
Correct.
When you're struggling, you're making decent money, you're not rich, you're not poor, so you're in that middle and you're paying taxes and there's no way around it. You don't have a bunch of investments, you don't have a bunch of ways to kind of move money around. All you have is that paycheck, that W-2, and you're paying a straight percentage on it and there's no way for you to hide it. Guess what? That hurts the people that are trying to get rich.
And that's what I wish people my age would really understand. And my boyfriend tells me this all the time, right? Yet raising taxes on the rich, right? Okay, everyone agrees that you should do that, but you can't tax the money that they already have. You can only tax the money that they're going to make. And most of them, they don't have a normal income like the middle class workers. So taxing, even if I'm only going to raise tax on people that make more than $400,000, which we all know it's going to affect people that make less than that. But so doctors, right? You're going to tax the doctors. You're going to take half of their income when they are working, you know, their lives away as a doctor, and everyone thinks that they're wealthy when you really want to get at the people that have millions and millions of dollars, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and it takes them 15, 20 years to pay off their student loans.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, people my age need to realize that just because you're taxing the rich, you're not taxing the money that they already have. You're only taxing the money that they're making.
And even if the tax rate is 15%, even if it's something that seems reasonable, again, when you're making $50K, $75K, $100K, and you don't have all these different financial vehicles to utilize like you're talking about with rich people, you know, you can't escape it. You're constantly paying that income tax. And so it doesn't just hurt. It doesn't really hurt the rich people. It hurts the people trying to get rich. It's one of the worst things you could ever do is to take a percentage of someone's labor and take it away from them. That's the worst thing you can do. And the bottom line is, and this is why I do not understand why young people, lower class, middle class, I don't understand why anybody votes for Democrats if for no other reason that they're going to take more of your money.
Well, look at the example of California. They're going to increase taxes because there's such a bad deficit in California. And it's not the fact that they're going to increase taxes. It's the fact that you cannot trust them to do right by the money that you're going to give more. Just giving more money and throwing it into a fire is going to do nothing but make the fire even worse.
All you have to do is ask a Democrat one question. How much of every dollar that I earn do I deserve to keep?
Correct.
Ask that question. They don't have an answer. Right. But I'll tell you what they'll say. They'll say, well, I want people to pay their fair share. Somebody please tell me what my fair share is so I can pay it and you'll shut up.
Well,
what is my fair share? Because I'm ready to pay it and shut you up.
And to paraphrase newly outed Donald Trump supporter Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, what I love about this country is
breaking news.
You
here
can get rich or die trying.
That's right.
That's right. More money, more problems.
That's right. So on that note, wrong rapper, but thanks.
Oh no, that's P Diddy, isn't it?
Yes, that's P Diddy. Who actually came out
He's definitely a Republican.
No, he came out really strong against Trump. Actually,
yeah, P Diddy. Really? Yeah, he did the vote or die. Right, P Diddy led the.
Yeah, and then
he did the
back in the day.
Vote or die.
Yeah,
but somebody pieced the P Diddy interview, him bashing Trump, and then right next to it put like a whole collage of pictures with him and Trump, which I thought was hysterical.
Yeah. I love it that Trump was one of the was in like 120 rap songs
for 40 years. For 40 years, the man's been rich and famous, and everybody loved him until he registered to run as a Republican against Hillary Clinton, and then he became the worst man on the planet.
He won the NAACP award with Rosa Parks. Like, there's a picture of him and Rosa Parks next to each other. It's all bull.
All right. Thanks again to Joe Wicker, Brittany Jean, and Anibal Cabrera for joining us on today's show. I didn't want to end today's show without at least really quickly, because we're already over time going through these constitutional amendments. We've had a lot of people asking us for guidance on these. Some of them are pretty plain and simple. But again, of course, the government makes nothing plain and simple. So we actually are going to pull these up for you. And there you go. You get to see first is Amendment 1 and 3. So 1 is which I don't understand why this is even on here, but it basically says that only United States citizens who are at least 18 years of age, permanent resident of Florida, registered to vote, shall be qualified to vote in a Florida election. I think this is more of just putting a stake in the ground in terms of not lowering the voting age like they want to do in some parts of the country.
Is that because citizenship, you have to, but you can you get citizenship prior to 18?
No,
Yeah.
so
If you're
I
naturalized,
You can become a citizen before
I
18.
think that
You're
the
naturalized
question
citizen?
in this amendment mostly is the word citizen. United
United
States
States
citizens.
citizen.
I think that's the
who
big
are
question.
at
Is
least
what they
18
want
years
to
of
add.
age. No, like Johnny's saying, though, who are at least 18 years of age.
So I wonder if it's more about the voting age, like,
right.
or because and
Right.
a permanent resident of Florida. I mean, again, it's a no-brainer.
I don't understand. I don't even understand what's controversial.
Well, it's called
about
a citizenship requirement to vote. So you have to be a United States citizen. But again, I don't see
I thought
how-
that was already the law.
So
Right.
it's saying,
But it's going to enshrine it in the Constitution, which means that it'll be much harder for any
go back.
legislative body to change it. I mean, a legislative body could maybe currently change the law.
Hector is saying yes, you can be naturalized under the age of 18, and then the greater Florida Republican Party is saying that you should vote yes for 1.
Yes.
But once you become a citizen, you get the right to vote.
Period.
I mean,
Yeah,
and
period.
so-
What's the, yeah.
Well,
I don't
technically,
understand.
when you become a citizen, unless you are also over the age of 18, then yes, you
Right.
can vote.
Right. Okay.
17 you can register.
All right. Since Amendment 3 is up there, let's go ahead and pick that one apart. All voters vote in primary elections for state legislator, governor,
No.
and cabinet.
Nope.
And so this is basically an open primary amendment, correct?
Jungle
No.
primary.
Yeah, basically they want to. They're trying to take away the current stronghold that Republicans
Should Protestants
have on our state
nominate the
legislature.
next Catholic Pope?
I want to.
I mean, do the Protestants get to pick the Pope?
I would like to
No,
be
they
able
don't.
to pick the vote.
So Republicans shouldn't be picking to. It is not
Exactly,
right.
exactly.
It is not right for me as a Republican to be able to go into the Democratic Party's election and determine who their nominee is.
Their
That is
nominee
wrong.
is correct.
And because if you want to vote in that party, then go be a part of that party. Not to
Georgia-
disenfranchise independents. I'm with them on that. But no.
Exactly.
I got
agree.
into a few arguments last cycle with people being upset that they couldn't vote in the primaries, and I made the simple question: then get involved.
If you want
Get
to
involved.
vote for a Republican, what's the problem?
Yeah.
Go
Right.
join the party or Democrat, whatever you want to do.
And you can easily switch
You're-
back and forth every single time. It's not that difficult.
No, it's easy to switch
yeah.
back and
Yeah.
forth. Oh wait, going back to the First Amendment real fast. So Amendment number 1 currently states the Florida Constitution, every citizen of the United States. So it's changing the word every citizen to only a citizen. That's what the vote is on.
Oh, good catch.
The rest of it's the same.
What?
Good job.
I'm sorry, I missed
So
it.
it currently says every citizen of the United States who's
Right.
at least 18 years of age.
So this
and they want
changes it
change
to a
only
Florida
a
resident.
citizen. No, so it's just changing the word every citizen to only a citizen. So
Okay, lawyer. Law student. Tell me that.
She
the
has-
language
I mean,
matters.
language matters.
She has
I
9
do.
weeks above all
Every
of us.
only.
That is like years, and she can practice tomorrow.
All right, number 2 is also a big no, raising the Florida's minimum wage. Most people. This is the dirty secret: is that most people are already making above minimum wage.
I would like
This
to
is
comment
this
on
is yes.
as an
you being-
employer,
right?
what people don't realize that Johnny was just talking about is that the majority of people that are earning minimum wage are white, middle class, and upper class kids under the age of 24 who live at home. That's the majority of people that are earning the minimum wage. They're working at Chick-fil-A, they're getting their first job, and whatnot. If you imagine a ladder that has a bottom rung, that first step you take, if you raise the minimum wage to 15 like they're doing, then no employer has any reason whatsoever to give somebody a shot when they're first getting started. If you have to pay an inflated wage, you will go out and only pay that to somebody that already has experience. As an employer, I have never paid minimum wage because it's pretty low in Florida. I've never paid minimum wage. The market and Trump's economy has been causing me to have to increase wages to attract talent. And so that's happening already. And the market will take care of itself. But I promise you, if we raise the minimum wage, and I'm worried about it, I promise you that employers will do one of a few things. And it won't be because they're nice or they're not nice or they're mean or they don't care. It'll just be based on math. And that is, they will either cut the hours of the people that they have so that they can afford to pay higher, so that the math levels out. They will choose not to hire the person that they were thinking about hiring because they can't afford to pay it at that time. The owner or owners themselves will just say, I'll bust the table. I'll do that job. I'll take the trash out. I'm not going to pay somebody $15 to do that. I don't need a kid. I'll just knock it out myself.
How many business owners do you know that are already doing that?
They're already
because
doing it.
of the environment of the economic environment right now.
Yeah. Or what will happen is even worse. People that need that first job simply won't get it because the business owner is going to say, well, if I have to pay that wage, I'm going to hold out for a person that's actually got some experience. So none of those situations are good for young people. They're not good for the unskilled people. And you know who it's also not good for? It's not good for unskilled young minorities that are trying to get that first job and anybody, regardless of what your race is, certainly like in a rural area too. If the economy is already weak there and there's not a lot of jobs, that makes it even worse for those people to be able to get that so important first job.
So the way I usually spin it to my Democrat friends that don't understand economics or don't understand how business works is that this amendment does one thing and one thing only. It hurts the poor. That's all it does.
Absolutely.
It hurts the poor and those that do not have the education to be able to get that first step on the ladder. And that's all that this does is just hurt the poor.
I hired a UT student. She sent me an email through the website, said, hey, I want to work with seniors. I don't have any certification, but it's something I'm really interested in doing. You know, she's looking for extra hours. She's looking to build a resume. She wants some patient care hours. She might be interested in doing something with that. And I know I kind of responded and was like, I don't hire a lot of, people that just do companion type stuff, but let's talk about it. And so I talked to her real quick. I said, all right, fine, come on in for an interview. She came in, interviewed well. I said, what's your expectation? She was like, I'm probably just going to make minimum wage. I said, I'm not going to pay you minimum wage. I'm going to pay you more than that. But if you want to get started, this is what we'll do. And I was able to find a client that really didn't require much, okay? And it's working out great. The client likes her. She likes what she's doing. She's got this first job in the industry. If I was required to pay her $15 an hour because I have certified nurses aides that are not making that, there's no way I would have ever hired her.
Yep.
So...
Yep. All right, so a big no. Brittany, did you want to add anything?
No, just the same thing. Like I got a job as a legal secretary, right before I applied to law school, and I didn't have any experience at all. And I, met this attorney, and I said, hey, I'm really interested in going to law school. I'd really like a job.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, sure. Well, and I didn't know this at the time, but he was getting interviews, from, people that had 20 years experience. And he wanted to give me that opportunity because he knew I wanted to go to law school. And like you're saying, without raising the minimum wage, he would have had to pay me more than he's paying these highly experienced, legal secretaries now. And he wouldn't have given me that chance. And then who knows, I might not have gotten to law school.
And real quick, one more thing is that your acknowledgement of, hey, listen, I'm young, I don't have a lot of experience, but I'm super excited, I'm motivated, I want to do this. Your ability to negotiate your own wage, that's the power that you have, is your ability to walk in and say, I might not have experience, but I tell you what, give me a shot. I don't need that much money. Let me get going. And the last thing about that is that most of the time, if you're a young person and you happen to be listening, do not focus on money. Those first few jobs are not about money. You just want to get in. You just want the experience. Yep. The money comes later. Don't worry about the money. Get the job for minimum wage or a little bit more and get in there like you did. Get in.
Or oftentimes you're going to realize that the job sucks or the industry sucks, and you're going to be like, okay, don't want to do that,
no matter what they pay.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So a big no on number 2. Let me go ahead and scroll over here to find. Oh, we did 1, 2, 3, right?
Yep.
Was that it? Oh no, there's 4. So let's scroll down over to number 4. We'll pull that up, and we're like way over time. But okay, voter approval of constitutional amendments.
Yes.
Yes.
requires all proposed amendments or revisions to the state constitution to be approved by voters in 2 elections instead of 1 in order to take effect. The proposal applies to current thresholds. Yeah, I think one of the things that I love about our constitution, especially given how divided we are these days, is how deliberate everything is. The numbers are set at certain benchmarks because it's supposed to be difficult to get there, to get those 60 votes, to get, that 2/3 vote. Like it's so brilliantly designed. And because it's supposed to be deliberate, you're not supposed to rush into things like we did after some of these school shootings, like we do after any tragedy. Think about it. If they would have had something like this in place after 9/11, would we have a Homeland Security? Which again was massive government expansion. Would we have Obamacare? If it was again maybe a more deliberate process. And so, especially here in Florida, I think this is a good rule to have.
The U.S. Constitution has been changes to the U.S. amendments to the U.S. Constitution have been proposed something like 20, 30,000 times.
Yeah,
and we've gotten less than 30 through. And I think that means, and I think that's exactly the way it was designed to. And a couple of, like you think, like prohibition, it was on and it was off, so wiped out. So it's not supposed to be changed very often, and I wish our Constitution was even harder to change.
It is fascinating to read the Federalist Papers and to see what was the thought process of our Constitution and how the checks and balances, and to make sure that not one of the 3 branches was more powerful than the others, and what happens if one is sick. They used all the problems in Europe and figured out a way to have it a legitimate republic. And that's what we don't look at it that way.
Well, and Hector in the comment section says Amendment 4 squarely aimed at John Morgan since he's looking to legalize marijuana, which
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but to me that's not a winning argument.
It's not a winning argument. But you've got a rich person. Forget that the amendment's about pot. You've got a rich person that's making it their mission in life to change the Constitution. And I don't know whether I haven't given it enough thought to discuss it, but. Is it right that somebody could come in with a bunch of money, pay a bunch of people to get petitions, and literally change the Constitution of your state?
Right.
I don't know. That's...
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's wrong, but it kind of feels wrong.
Can
a rich person just change the Constitution?
On our side, we have Republicans that have done the same thing on other states. So, I understand your position, and I kind of agree with it. I don't think one person should have that much power to be able to manipulate just because he has more money than normal people. So,
yeah.
All right,
you should at least have a Florida driver's license that's active before you start changing the Constitution of Florida.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say about that.
Limo Morgan.
That's active? You mean that's valid? That's yeah.
So John Morgan. All right. So yes on 4, and what do we think about number 5? Limitations on homestead property tax assessments, increased portability period to transfer accrued benefit. This is where it starts to get a little tricky because they're basically coming in. The state legislature is basically kind of creeping in on home rule. And basically telling your property, your property appraisers, and what they can and can't do. But proposing an amendment to the state constitution effective January 1st, 2021 to increase from 2 to 3 years the period of time during which accrued Save Our Homes benefits may be transferred from a prior homestead to a new homestead. So this is actually more about, it's a tax policy amendment.
Yes. Yeah. Moving on.
Yeah, I need to look. Yes? I need to look. I need to research that one a little bit. But anything that helps protect your home and the taxes again, and
that's why this is a pretty simple
lowering of taxes.
Keep taxes low.
That's all it is.
All right, so there we go. So that was 4 and 5. Scroll down to 6.
Last one.
Another tax ad valorem tax discount for spouses of certain deceased veterans who had permanent combat-related disabilities. Why do I feel like I see one of these almost every cycle or every other cycle? Like the verbiage just changes a little bit.
Some kind of veteran. You mean some kind of veteran benefit?
Yeah, tax benefits.
I do feel like there's a lot. Well, this one, if I understand correctly, this one extends that benefit to the surviving spouse of the veteran.
Right.
And if you think about it, you would think that would be common sense. I thought that, in Florida, if you're married, your home, it's, even if you don't have a will, your spouse automatically is pretty much getting your home. I'm surprised to learn that the tax benefit for the veteran would go away. Because what concerns me anytime you're talking about property taxes is the person that's 85 years old is on fixed income, is not earning any more, but yet that bill is going up consistently year after year after year after year. Because if all you're relying on is Social Security and maybe some other small pension, well, food costs, inflation keep going up, fuel is going up, your light bill, everything's going up. But if you're 85 and your pension's not going up, that person's getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. And the last thing that should ever happen in this country is for someone who's paid off their property to not be able to afford their property tax and have their home taken from them.
But
that's
is
just
that
criminal.
what Amendment 6 is talking about?
Well, it's extending the veteran, because so the veteran that's disabled to a certain extent and has the exemption from property taxes, they're saying that, okay, this person's not been paying a property tax, or they've been paying a certain amount this whole time. Then the veteran dies, so now the spouse all of a sudden, that's lifted, and now there's a reassessment, and they basically the spouse's taxes go up.
But wouldn't that be normal in any situation? If the spouse dies, wouldn't the other spouse have to be responsible for paying the bills that are going through?
Well, I think the challenge is it's one thing if your spouse receives a pension, they die, and now there's no more pension. Okay, we get that. I think the problem is that if your property taxes are, let's say, $5,000 a year, okay, and then all of a sudden, because your spouse dies, now there's $7,500. Is that right or not? If you had property tax exemption, and now all of a sudden you're paying $4,000 because your property is in South Tampa.
Yeah, but you've been having that benefit for how many years, whereas other Americans do not have that.
I'm with you. I'm just saying that you've got a family. You've got a family. We'll say a husband and wife that have been paying either nothing or a certain amount on that property all this time. The veteran dies, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's a tax bill from now on.
So is it saying that it's giving more time?
This is going to prevent that. It's going to extend that to the surviving spouse.
I don't think it should. I don't think that should happen.
There's some principled arguments. I'm with you.
I agree, but I do think also the veteran isn't the only one that makes the sacrifice, right? The family also is making the sacrifice. So extending that benefit to them.
No,
I think
if you talk to a military spouse, they pay a price too.
I'm not. I'm not doubting that at all.
Yeah.
We are a military family.
Well, this actually also brings back a similar point that a buddy of ours, Billy Mitchell, it brought to light, through an incident that happened where. Because you could be a veteran or you could be active, but still serve in a civilian capacity on base.
Right.
And apparently there was a guy in that situation who was active, but in his role on base, he was considered a civilian. And when there was an on-site accident that took his life, they are now not receiving the military benefits that they are due because he was working under civilian capacity, not as an active member of the military.
Because it wasn't considered in the line of duty.
Exactly.
That's why.
Yeah. And so, again, someone who gave their life to this country, served for a number, obviously still serving, right, for years on end, and to now say, oh, thanks, but we're done with you.
It's hard to vote against a tax decrease in my mind. In my mind, I'm like, okay, does this give more money back to the people? Okay. Then
I think it also specifically says veterans that were on disability, right? So then the family already has that added burden of, probably having the wife or kids or somebody is working once that veteran
might have
has
been a
retired
caregiver or something. They might have been.
Yeah, so they are already making up for that money that they couldn't earn any longer or something like that.
The party says no to vote no for this one.
But I don't know, man. Hillsborough Republican Party. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think
I'm sorry,
you don't
Mine
agree.
says to vote yes.
Mine says vote no for number 6. Oh,
I think the Young Republicans said what? What did they say? I think no.
They haven't come up with a new one.
No, they did. They posted it.
When was this?
Today.
What?
Oh, that's why I haven't seen it.
Mine says yes.
People are trying.
Well, it's not really a partisan thing, but like I kind of agree with Joe. I mean, if it's something that keeps money in people's pockets, certainly a veteran family, military family. I mean, again, I'm all for it. I don't take issue with it.
Imagine this.
It says yes. Okay, it says 6 is a yes.
Imagine
TBUR says yes.
Imagine this.
Thanks, Hector.
Because the veteran owns the home, the property taxes, and the veteran's not able to work because of a severe disability. Okay, their income is limited for years and years and years. Okay, they die, and now all of a sudden, grandma or grandpa, whoever the surviving spouse is, now all of a sudden they have a $2,500 tax bill.
Yeah.
What are we trying to accomplish? Like what?
Yeah.
I mean, the person died. It's not like they took an action.
Yeah, and
that
it's not
increased the value of the property.
And it's not generationally transferable.
Correct.
Right. It's not like they did something to create a taxable event. Literally, the veteran dying creates a taxable event. Like, that seems odd.
Not only that, the fact that you're now losing, potentially
You're
or
losing
more.
You're
Half
losing
or more of the
whatever-
income in that household.
You're losing whatever pension benefit they did have. So.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. This is the Yard Sign, most important and relevant podcast in politics. Again, big thank you to Joe, Brittany, Anibal. We're going to close out the show, as I have now kind of made it a habit to do so, by talking about or just mentioning what's the one story we didn't get to today that you are watching closely. We'll go left to right. So, Mr. Wicker, you're up. What's the one story
I wasn't prepared.
that we didn't?
I didn't do my homework.
You didn't do your homework the whole time.
You know,
I know,
the
Brittany's off
classes
guard,
are
too.
small. You know, when the class size is small, you can't hide. Like, I didn't read. I'm
What are
sorry.
the notes on your notepad?
Oh, I have one.
All right, so here I'll jump in first on this one. To me, it's whether or not this next debate is going to happen. I think.
Oh, that was yours? That was yours?
You have time. You have time.
Oh.
I know no one's gonna get mine. It's fine.
All right, so you can have it, Brittany. Go ahead. What are you saying? What are you thinking about the debates?
Well, that there is one.
All right, do you want it?
On
Do you want it to
Thursday.
happen?
I think it will happen. I don't
Okay.
think that Donald Trump or Joe Biden, with it being so close to the election, either one of them will bow out of it. I do think it will happen. But
it
it's
gonna
on
be at?
Thursday, so watch.
Where's it gonna be at? I don't know. Hector made a comment about it being in Miami, and he wanted to know why more.
No,
emphasis-
he was talking about the one that
Town
got
hall.
canceled.
The town hall. Okay.
Yeah, the one that got canceled was in Miami, and why didn't we have them here in Tampa? We've had plenty of presidential debates here in Tampa. I mean,
we
don't
can
know
talk
why.
about the Super Bowl.
Oh,
Romney
and
supposed
okay,
to be
I have
there?
one. Joe Biden called a lid until Thursday and refuses to answer any questions about Hunter Biden. So we need to be
Wow.
watching out
Did he?
for that on the debate stage, because if the moderator
me.
doesn't
Excuse me.
ask, bless you, you know that Donald Trump is going to ask him about it.
Oh, of course.
So he's not taking any media questions until the debate, until after the debate.
Again, it's
To focus on debate prep.
it's,
I'm sure he
it's
is.
not Hunter. That's the issue.
But
It's
this is
censorship.
but what's very telling.
Some people were concerned there was a COVID issue.
But
maybe.
what's very telling is that they won't even put out a statement about it.
Yep.
That's
they
the
can't.
thing. If they could step away from this and say, "Hey, look, this is a fallacy. This is a conspiracy. This is all bogus," but they can't.
not denying is
The fact that they
bigger
can't
issue.
deny it, right? That the message that they're sending is much louder by saying nothing than by coming out and saying something.
Love it.
All right,
Shout
Joe,
out to
you're on.
my little sister. The debate is in Nashville.
Oh, Nashville's a great little town.
Oh, that'll be cool.
That'll be
Yeah.
fun. Good ribs. Do you have one yet?
I mean, I'm always cool with talking about college football if anybody wants to talk about that. COVID.
Talk about the Gators.
Shall we
No,
talk about
the Knowles. Are you a Gator fan?
Yeah, but they
well-
postponed their game again this weekend.
Oh, it's the Gators. It's
That's why the Rays going to the World Series.
we
stadium
could
is still on
to keep
fire.
it political. We could talk about DeSantis. We could, I don't know. We want to talk about DeSantis.
No,
and
also,
how
hey,
things are going.
to your
things are going here.
favorite slogan, this year, go woke, go broke. No, look, the numbers for the NFL have
that's
been
right.
abysmal.
Yes. And the NBA,
Yeah.
the
was
NBA
horrible.
basically backed off of that. The
Yeah,
NBA, the
they're
NFL.
they're gonna do away with all the BLM stuff come next season.
Of course, yeah, because they are pandering, and the
Yeah.
moment it touches their wallets,
Yeah.
they're gonna stop it. Well,
Same
it
thing
dropped
with-
by
same-
what 40%?
Same thing with everything pink right now. It's like you just give money.
Yeah,
Just write a check.
Right? Yeah.
Don't buy pink light bulbs for your building. Take that money and write a check.
Did you go to the story, Anibal?
So I am watching what's happening in South America with the elections of
Chile?
Chile, and really seeing how the socialism is starting to move in that part. And as any Hispanic knows, it comes in waves with South America. Things are great and they're under capitalism, and then people get upset about it. They want more money. They have 3 or 4 elections with socialism. Everything falls apart. They can't pay their debts, and then America has to come in and recertify their banks, and then they get capitalism again.
Well, and the weird
It's
part
insane.
about that whole story too is that apparently they haven't been able to certify the election results, like make them official. There's a lot in question, and one of the things that I'm going to look into also is that there is some of this BLM like slogans and an agenda
it's in Europe,
that is
and it's-
bleeding
yes.
into
bleeding
into
So weird.
other
It's
parts
so
of the world.
weird.
Yeah, it's in Europe. It's in South
This
America.
anti-police,
Yeah.
like,
But
more-
I think that's proof
I don't mean
that it's
small
a
government, but
leftist movement.
anti-government,
No,
like
it's-
anarchist.
It's
type.
proof that it's a leftist movement.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, think about it. At the core, initially, of BLM, the organization that got co-opted by the left, at the core of it was the some of the legitimate grievances that Black Americans had with their interactions with police forces and targeted what some would say is over-policing, okay? There were some legitimate grievances that people wanted to talk about, and they wanted to change police policy.
Correct.
Okay, this is a uniquely American
Yes.
issue.
Right.
That's a uniquely American issue. How is France talking about BLM?
Right.
How is this happening in South America? I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
So
Because it's a leftist movement.
So the elections in Chile, the elections in Bolivia are what I'm looking at right now, and then the protesting in Thailand, where they're trying to overthrow the monarchy, and that is going to get very bloody very quickly. Also, with what's happening in Bulgaria, those two are going to get bloody.
So
really quick.
is it a far left version of the Arab Spring that they're trying to pop up? Is that what's trying to happen? Are people trying to do like a an anarchist leftist version of the Arab Spring?
Until one of them falls, you can't tell.
But you know what I'm saying,
yeah.
right?
I have no idea what's going on. Anything past the Pacific or Atlantic Ocean.
Come on, guys. We need to know what's happening in other parts of the world.
Act locally.
That's
think
what we had
globally.
you for, Anibal.
I know. Hence why I'm saying.
All right, so you've got homework for next week.
I'm watching South America. I'm watching Europe, and
Yeah.
and
We're gonna need a research paper on Chile.
That's right. Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for watching.
Double
Again,
spaced.
I have
thank
a
you.
10 pages.
I do.
Thank you to Joe Wicker, Brittany Jean, and Anibal Cabrera for being on the show.
That's your
today.
notes.
Yes.
We'll
Did you not bring notes?
we'll get them back on camera here in a second because I'm about to
I
mute
brought
them.
notes.
Oh my God! All right. Thank you
I have
everybody
the-
for
I have the
watching.
breakdown
Again,
of the
make sure
election
that
results.
you
Donald Trump
like,
prep.
share,
Donald
follow
Trump debate prep, baby.
on all our social media platforms and subscribe to the audio version of the
Donald
podcast
Trump
on Apple,
debate prep.
I spent
Spotify,
like 5
Google.
hours last night.
I didn't even get to tell you guys. We are
How's Chris
officially
Christie doing?
registered. It's not live yet, but we're registered to be among the first podcasts on Amazon and Audible.
Heyo.
So yeah,
Yay.
so I'm very, very excited about
Evidently,
that.
we're the long version of the conservative podcasts in the region. Everyone else.
Well,
is
we
like,
made up for not having a show last week. So thank you everybody for watching. That's going to be it. We ran way too long, but we appreciate you so much
Our
for
theme
watching,
song
listening.
needs to be whoop. There it is. I'm just saying. It needs to be whoop.
Oh
there
my
it is.
God. Good.